Just a reminder while I'm thinking of it, everybody, we do have the Adapt and Overcome podcast tomorrow. That'll be me and Matt, and we're going to be talking about food and supplements. So you guys are not going to want to miss that. It's been requested a couple months now, I think. I've just been very busy, focused on making the biomechanic videos and the flashcards to help you guys out, and now I'm making a set of handicap flashcards as well for people in wheelchairs and walkers or with disabilities, so they can be performing the stuff in the comfort of their own home as well. Because, I mean, you know, you guys know, a lot of people like me, they don't like leaving their house, they like to be introverted. Hey, Philip. Sure, I can definitely do that. All right, so questions I received earlier, I'll go over them very briefly to the best of my memory anyways. Philip, you asked about HRVT training. You asked specifically about how many breath cycles you should be doing per given set period of time. And yeah, it's very important when you're doing the HRVT training. We haven't done this yet, but we actually have to establish what your resting HRVT is, and you'll be doing that by taking it first thing in the morning upon waking, about 6-7 days in a row, and you'll be taking the average. Once we've decided what your average is, we're going to track that every 2 weeks for about 10 weeks to make sure it's going down. For those of you who don't know what HRVT training is, it is heart rate variability training. It is directly connected to your respiratory system and how you're breathing. Long story short, you will be breathing nose to belly for a period of 5 to 6 seconds. And also, you'll be breathing out, again, mouth or nose, doesn't matter too much, but slowly between 7 to 8 seconds. Each person is individual. I have a video up currently. It's HRVT training for athletes. It's a 16-minute video. If you're curious, I'd encourage you to try it. And it does matter immensely how you're doing the HRVT training. That's why I have the video up. You want to follow along to the very best of your abilities. And basically, when you finish the video, you'll notice you definitely have improved mood and focus and better ability to control your emotions. But the real thing, the real kicker doesn't show until 4, 5, 6 weeks in, or some people 10 weeks in. You have a tremendous willpower, incredible focus of mind. Your endurance has been drastically increased, both in the weight room, and if you're a runner or cardio, your endurance is now through the roof. You can manage your emotions much better. I highly recommend everyone do it, but particularly athletes. The next question I remember getting was in relation to the workout schedule for the Big 20. So I'll just address the workout schedule again very briefly. For those of you who don't know, again, it's just a plug for me, but it's so cheap, I would urge you to buy it. I made a set for you guys here of the Big 20 flashcard form. You find it in my Etsy store in the description of any of my videos. But the very first page literally tells you the optimum plan that me and Doug agree on for frequency and muscular size and growth using the Big 20 principles. So, long story short, just to keep it very simple, the first day will be your torso day. That's chest, lat, your back, your rector spinal, your abs, your scapula muscles, your middle trapezius, and your obliques, your serratus anterior. The second day will be your arms and your shoulders, biceps, triceps, rear delt, front delt, lateral delt, upper trap, forearm, flexor, and extensor. And then your third day will be, you know, your quads, your hamstrings, your calves, your adduction, your abduction, your psoas. That's the best way to do it. You do 3 days in a row, you do your torso, you do your arms and your shoulders, and you do your legs, and then you take a day off. Now I'd like to stress, it doesn't matter if you're natural or you're on steroids. The frequency remains the same. The only difference if you're natural or you're enhanced or on steroids, the difference is you can include more volume. So if you're natural, do not go over 3 sets. When you're doing your sets, you're going to want to be shooting for between 20 to 30 reps, and you're going to want to be stopping each set 3 to 4 reps short of failure. So when you notice the weight starting to slow down when you're raising it, that's a good place to start. You don't actually want to go to failure. That's a different style of training. If you're shooting for maximum hypertrophy, this is how you're doing it. So again, it'll be your torso, then your arms, then your legs, then a day off. Then you once again, torso, arms, legs. And you just keep that rotation continuously. If you're feeling fatigued, Take an extra day off whenever you're feeling fatigued, but this is the optimum schedule. And again, if you're natural, do not do more than 3 sets. If you're enhanced, I would say you could go up to 6, depending on how much gear that you're running. Also, furthermore, I'd just like to add that you can do this in the comfort of your home for $70. Each and every one of the exercises performed, again, in your home. I mean, each one of them has a flashcard. Each one is demonstrating perfectly how to do it. You get this at my Etsy store for pennies. I mean, you'd be silly not to get it. But again, it's the exercise plan, the at-home setup, the flashcards demonstrating how to do them perfectly with dumbbells or with cables. I know most of you know already, but hey, it's good to have around. Again, back to the HRVT training. Philip asked about having a monitor. You do have to have a monitor. Not so much during training, more to keep your baseline. You want to make sure that your baseline is increasing over time. Just like how you take your measurements of your muscle size, your body measurements, you take measurements of your weight, all these things, you also take measurements of your respiratory volume. You take what's called VO2 max. Take measurements of your things like the HRVT. If you're serious about improving yourself, you need these measurements. Once you use the HRVT monitor for establishing a baseline, and you get comfortable using it to establish a baseline, you can also use the monitor during your breathing sessions to make sure that you're actually lined up where you're supposed to be. Philip will talk about that another time. There was another question about training the tibialis anterior and the serratus anterior. And again, I addressed it briefly, but I'll keep it even briefer this time. This is sport specific, both of them. Some muscles, well, I should say most muscles really don't require sport-specific training. Some muscles do. So like if you're a runner, a soccer player, a basketball player, these kinds of things, you absolutely need to be training your calf muscles and specifically your calf tendons to be taking this kind of load, to be elastic and everything else. For your serratus anterior, this is primarily involved in rotational movements, rotating the spine. This is, again, typically not really something you would be focusing on unless it was sport specific. The rotation, think of it like a shot put. When somebody has a shot put and they rotate their torso, they throw it. The greater ability or strength that they have with that movement and the greater velocity they can generate throwing the ball further. Same thing with basketball, same thing with golf. So unless I know the actual sport in regards to the training of these two muscle groups, I would say just use the Brick 20 movements, the oblique crunch, the oblique twist, the calf raise. I would do 2 ways. Do it one way to build your muscle, primarily focusing on the muscle. That would be a slow tempo. So you will be doing a standard calf raise. You will tippy toes, slowly lower yourself for 4 seconds till your heel is completely down, your leg is all nice and stretched out. Leave it alone for 2 seconds to remove the bounce reflex in your tendons, and then again, rapidly raise it again, 4 seconds down, 2-second pause, rapidly raise it. This will train your calf, let's just call the muscles, the gastrocnemius and everything else. To be training the actual tendons, the Achilles tendon and a few other tendons in that area you'll need to do for running, I would highly recommend movements like jump rope or quick toes, performing the ladder, running upstairs rapidly. These kinds of things are great for developing that kind of explosiveness, that elasticity, the bounce reflex. Also practicing will build the neurological connection, allowing you to perform better. But again, it will be very sport specific unless you're just trying to build muscle. And if you're just trying to build muscle, just do the Brick 20 and do it with nice slow tempo, no momentum. Okay, so, great question. How does Wim Hof breathing mesh with the HRVT training? So, long story short, they are both 2 tools. Think of one like a hammer and one like a screw gun, I guess. 2 completely different tools, 2 completely different applications, but both of these tools enhance your body and your mind through different ways. So, the HRVT training will be enhancing your focus. It'll be increasing your heart rate variability, your ability to mentally control yourself, if you will, as well as your endurance capacity. The Wim Hof breathing, on the other hand, it's more like controlled hyperventilation, it's increasing your ability to use, oh, I'll get to that in 1 second. It's increasing your ability to use the carbon dioxide. So respiratory health is, again, a bit misunderstood. You need to have, let's just say, good control and ability to utilize both oxygen and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the thing which actually dilates your vessels and transports the oxygen around your body. Wim Hof breathing makes your body more alkaline and improves your body's ability to use this CO2. This translates to lots of things. It doesn't really translate into endurance, but it does translate into mental endurance. It translates into willpower to a degree. It makes your body more alkaline. It makes you healthier in general. It allows you to fight off colds and viruses almost instantaneously. It allows you to actually have direct control of what Wim calls the reptilian part of your brain, but evolutionary-wise, it's just a part of your brain that's very old, and we do in fact actually share with reptiles the same chemical system. So he's actually right about that. It just sounds funny when he says reptilian brain. But long story short, they're both two tools. They should both be performed. They're both excellent tools. The Wim Hof breathing, for example, you want to just do a single round to the best of your abilities past 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you'll get all the benefits from doing it. The HRVT training, unfortunately, there's no way to get good at this rapidly. For most people, it's a 10-week program to get very good at it. It's 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. Now, lots of things about the HRVT training as well, and it always sounds a little bit hokey when I talk about this, but you can actually use this style of training to remove emotional blockages and psychological problems you have. I'm not really going to get into that now. I have a video coming up soon where I address all these things. It's a comprehensively, put together video. I won't just be bullshitting about it. But heart rate variability training is extremely important. Wim Hof training, I feel everybody should be doing. It's a very small portion of your day. It's very easy to do. There's also many other breathing techniques which I advocate, I should say. Everybody do. Things like bellows breathing. Basic things like doing a handstand and breathing while upside down, for example, trains your pelvic floor muscles. It's the only way to do it, as a matter of fact. Things like stomach vacuums. This is training your diaphragm to be stronger, more elastic, as well as keeping your waist nice and tight, and also developing your abdominal tendons and ligaments more, meaning your abs show better. So, I mean, I could keep giving you a list. There's an endless list of these breathing techniques. Some are more effective than others, all of which are applicable to just about everyone, and of course some apply more to others than others. The HRVT training, for example, really does truly apply to everyone. I've seen it have great success in people with MS, great success in all areas of athletic, with removing PTSD. Matt, my co-host on Adapt and Overcome, we just had a long chat about it, and I just had him as well start the HRVT training to assist him with some of his disabilities. I know it might seem strange to some people, but because you guys know me as like the biomechanic workout guy and stuff, but I mean, most of what I talk about is not actually exercise. Exercise is very easy to understand, it's very easy to teach. And once you know it, you know it. Most of what I talk about is breathing related, diet related, goal related, habit creating, supplements, those kinds of things. Those change and those are very important. Exercise is the beautiful thing about biomechanics. Once you know the best way to do something, there's no need to do it any other way, really. But I hope that answers all the questions I got. I don't remember if I had any other questions on the previous one I didn't answer. And I think I answered all of these, except where to get the flashcards. So if anybody's curious as to where to get these flashcards, they're just in the description below to my Etsy store, link there. Again, guys, they're just pennies. I also have several books I've written. I have several different tools for you guys there, workout calendars, I mean, all kinds of stuff I make. If you guys have any things you want me to make and put in the store, let me know. Always up to make new stuff for you guys. I'm just here to help. I'm going to be calling this video quits in about 15 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time. I can ramble about anything, you should know that. When doing HRV breathing, are you in an anabolic state? And are you in a catabolic state with Wim Hof? That would actually, I believe, depend on the person and how much they have done it. But in both cases, both with Wim Hof and with the HRVT breathing, you'd be in an anabolic state, actually. Well, provided you were doing it correctly and you were healthy, then yes. I mean, there's a lot of caveats to this, and it depends on the person, but generally speaking, in both cases, you'll be in an anabolic state. Maybe I should do that live on my phone instead of the computer from now on. And don't forget, guys, I'll be doing the live every Sunday. So if you happen to have questions during the week, write them down or just email them to me or put them in the comments of one of my videos, and I'll try to be putting a list together for these. I'm trying to do these live with Castle videos on Sunday, as it's my easiest day, and it replaces Questions with Castle. It was another series I did where I gathered questions from Instagram and Facebook, my emails, and the comments on YouTube. And I stopped doing it because I would go through the comments on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube in my emails, and 95% of them were just telling me that they hated me and I'm a retard and to go fuck myself. So I stopped reading the comments, and I thought it'd be a much better idea just to do a YouTube live like this, and the people who actually care about making themselves better and they want actual advice, they'll come here, they can ask their questions directly, I can answer them directly to the people who actually want to know the information, and I won't have to sift through all of the hundreds of negative comments and bullshit on my many media. It's amazing how much time people have to leave negative comments, but they don't have time to read a book or a simple article. The amount of time it takes somebody to type 3 of these comments to me, they could have read one of my articles or one of Jerry Brainham's articles or Doug's articles about something useful, instead of sitting there hating on somebody. But our life is always the choices that we make. So got about 10 minutes left, guys. Any questions I can answer for anyone? It doesn't matter what it is. They can be related to just about anything. I mean, if I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you I don't know. I don't bullshit about stuff I don't know. No questions, or are you guys typing slowly? Do you like the 20-15-10 rep scheme Doug was talking about? So, this is a biggie, a big misunderstanding people have lots of times. I try to clear it up as best I can, but I also try to make things very simple. Do I take these sets to failure? Okay, so very simple, just to answer your question as simply as I can. Training reps and sets will depend on the individual's goals, their genetics, and if they're taking drugs or not. So I would say what Doug says about that, I mean, we've actually talked about it quite a bit, but when he's saying that, he's saying it kind of as an average across the board for most people. It's extremely difficult. This is why people like me and Doug exist, because it's extremely difficult to have the best possible plan without somebody taking a look at you directly and what you're doing directly. So in most of the videos where me and Doug talk about these kinds of stuff, we try to be as clear as we can about it, but we also try to keep it applicable to everyone. So if you want to think about a bell curve, this is the average. So when he says he has various things he says, but when he says 12 or sorry, 20, 15, 12, or he says 30, 25, 20, 15. What he's referring to is that you'll be taking, this is compared to bicep curl, very simple. You'll be doing a bicep curl with a weight which allows you to almost fail at 20 reps. You will then cycle through your exercises, say triceps, front delt, rear delt, lateral delt, forearms, and then go back to the bicep, at which point in time you will increase the weight slightly. Let's say it's the bicep, you'd increase it by anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds, and you would then perform another set. Doing it this way would allow your muscle to then fail, or almost fail at an earlier time, around 15 reps. And then you'd be going again through your exercises, coming back around to the bicep again, and either slightly increasing the weight or keeping it the same, because the muscle will now be fatigued and running low on glucose stores. And you'll be stopping, I should say, around 12. Now the reason I say stopping is because failure training is not productive for most people. Now when I say failure training is not productive, again, don't take that out of context. I love failure training. It's a very productive way to train. But if your goal is to maximally produce the most amount of muscle in the shortest period of time, the idea then would be a frequency of training that muscle every 3 to 4 days for 3 to 5 sets, each set stopped just before failure. The reason for this is when you take a muscle till failure, it takes between 7 to 9 days to fully recover and supercompensate. However, if you don't take the muscle fully to failure, what happens is it recovers quicker, but it still grows. So you're actually doubling or tripling the growth by targeting it more frequently with more volume, but not completely crushing the muscle. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to keep it very simple. Again, it's a really complicated subject, but when you're doing your training, the first thing you need to plan is your frequency. And the frequency should always, if your goal is maximum muscle growth, the frequency should always be, steroids or not, 3 to 4 days before you hit a muscle again. So biceps on Monday, then biceps again on either Wednesday or Thursday. How many sets? Should always be 3 or less if you're natural. If you're enhanced, I would say you can go up to 6. But that doesn't mean you take it till failure. For those of you who don't know, failure training is, say I'm doing a bicep curl. Failure training would mean I can no longer raise the weight on my own or control the lowering of the weight. So somebody else would pick the weight up and then I can't even control the lowering it just falls. That means the muscle has been completely exhausted in all aspects. That's failure training. You do not want to do that if your goal is maximum hypertrophy. You want to stop 3 to 4 reps short of that. So when you start noticing it's slowing down when you're coming up, it's not going quick anymore. Now it's coming up kind of slow like this. Now you know that's a good time to stop. When you leave the gym, you should absolutely leave the gym feeling very tired and exhausted, but you shouldn't feel like you just got hit by a train. You took it too far, you did too many sets, too many reps, something happened. So I hope that answers the question. Guys, I got about 5 more minutes if anybody has some more questions for me. No questions, guys? Okay. Do what Chris Beardsley, I don't know who that is, 3 to 5 sets in the 5 to 8 rep range and just train more frequent. I don't know who the Chris fellow is, but I'm doing 3 to 5 sets in the 5 to 8 rep range, just short of failure, and train more frequent. Now the train more frequent, no. I will disagree with the train more frequent. Every 3 to 4 days. When should you increase resistance? Okay, so just real quick, I'll answer those 2 questions. So again, I apologize, I don't know who the Chris fellow is, but what he's saying about increasing frequency, I don't know how much he's trying to increase the frequency, but I know that muscles are not special. Everybody's the same here, and if you're training with Doug's, let's just say the Brig 20 with correct biomechanical exercises, and you're training 3 sets, it doesn't matter if it's 5 to 8 reps or if it's 30 reps, you're still stopping just short of failure. your muscle will not be recovered before 3 to 4 days. Now, if you take that and you dial it back so you're stopping way short of failure, then you could probably increase your volume, but I would also argue that you're not going to increase your muscle as rapidly. Now, the other question I just saw was, when do you increase resistance? Okay, so he talks the same frequency Doug does, then yeah, he's absolutely correct. But the 5 to 8 reps, that's more of a tendon and strengthening exercise than a muscle growing exercise. You're going to be wanting, if you're shooting for recruiting all types of muscle fibers, 1, 2, and 3, resulting in the most growth, you're going to be wanting to shoot always around 15 to 30 reps, somewhere in that area. When you're below that area, you're still going to be getting muscle growth, obviously, but it's also going to be, I'll give you a good example. I was 145 pounds, deadlifting 600 pounds. And that's just because I had increased my muscle strength and my tendon strength. But I was skinny. I was a tiny little guy. There's no correlation there. If you're shooting for muscle size, it'll be 15 to 30, stopping short of failure. What he's saying, it seems more for people who actually like maybe do powerlifting or something, not bodybuilding so much. But again, I mean, maybe he knows something I don't. As far as increasing resistance, I find that my resistance, generally speak, well, actually, for those of you who have started using Doug's stuff or have been using it for only a year or two, I would actually urge you all to drop the weights, to lower your weights. The most common problem I see with my clients, especially people who have been using Doug's principles and they come to me for coaching, is the weights that they're using are way too heavy. They're not even aware of it, but they're compensating with their body. They're not actually truly doing the exercises. The scapular retraction, almost always, they're not really targeting their middle trapezius, they're using other muscle groups. The declined chest, almost always they're trying to use too heavy of a weight. The tricep, the rear deltoid, all of these things, they're always trying to use too heavy of a weight. Now for me, when I started using biomechanics properly, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was selecting too heavy weights. I don't know if it was accidentally or because I wasn't doing it perfectly, but then I really focused on doing everything perfectly, and I noticed all of my weights dropped even more significantly. I mean, I was doing lateral raises with 10 pounds. And then over the next 5 or 6 years, my weights have increased, but I would like to remind you guys, when I say weights are increasing, it really depends on the exercise, and you shouldn't have these expectations of 5, 10, 15 pounds a year. That's not really how it works. So let's just take the lateral deltoid, for example. The lateral deltoid is a very small muscle, triangle-shaped muscle right here. Okay, it's very small, and the function of this lateral deltoid is to raise your arm laterally. Now this is a 38-inch lever on a very small muscle. Now, if at this point in time you can do perfectly 30 lateral raises while lying on your side with an 8-pound weight, do you think it's realistic that in a year's time you'll be doing it with a 20-pound dumbbell? Probably not. That's a really, really big increase in weight mathematically when you understand what's occurring. So when you're doing 10 pounds with your lateral deltoid like this, laying on your side, not standing, lying on your side, that's not actually 10 pounds being delivered to the lateral deltoid. That's 10 pounds being magnified by a 38-inch lever. That's considerably more. That's 380 pounds. I mean, that's not accurate. It's just a guesstimation. I'm not doing math right now or trigonometry. It's like 300 some odd pounds, okay? Now, if you're going to double that, do you think your lateral deltoid is going to grow strong enough to do 600 pounds in a year? No, probably not. What would be reasonable is to do, just say 8 pounds for 30 reps. We know we can do that. Let's make it 10 pounds. At 10 pounds, it's only a 2-pound increase. It's going to be significantly harder, and you're probably going to be stopping around 18 or 20. Now, once you get that 18 or 20 back up to being able to do 3 sets of around 30 reps, then you can increase your weight again. But I guarantee you, even with perfect diet, even if you're taking steroids and you're doing everything perfectly, it's going to be a good probably 4 months before you're going to bump that weight up. The reason people have these misconceptions about how soon they can raise the weight is because when you're doing something like a squat, you can raise that 5 pounds every week. That's actually not that hard to do, and you can do that for a period of time. When you're doing something like a deadlift, you can raise that 3 to 5 pounds a week. That's not hard to do. But that's because it's your whole body doing the damn thing. And you can use momentum and cheat and bounce, and every time you go to the gym, the weights are slightly different weights that you put on the barbell, etc. So that can happen. but not using biomechanically correct principles. It's not possible because the weights are being maximally like efficiently loaded onto that muscle group in the best possible way, and it's only a single muscle group doing the work. It's not a whole bunch of muscle groups doing the work, and it's isolated as much as possible, hopefully. So, I mean, I share my weights with you guys in my videos. I share them on my Instagram. Anybody looking at my weights would not be impressed with some of the weights that I do. Some of them are very impressive. I mean, like, in my opinion, doing a lateral pull-in with 230 pounds is pretty impressive. I mean, that's a lot of weight for one arm. But something like me doing bicep curls with only 45, 50 pounds, that's not very impressive to most people. I used to do curls with 80 pounds swinging like a moron. I mean, but that's not productive. So it's one of the biggest things I say is drop your ego. So if you haven't already, just try dropping all your weights down. Just try it. Just try dropping them down, focusing purely on technique. Focusing when you do your lateral deltoid raise, for example, that your torso is perfectly parallel with gravity. That when you raise your arm, it's nice and straight. That you only are going up to parallel, no more. That it's under control, it's going down for 4 seconds, it's coming up rapidly in a controlled fashion. Focus on that. You'll feel the muscle like you've never felt it before in a very isolated manner, and you'll get better results than you will be, let's just say, trying to do it quickly or rapidly or cheating or not focusing so much. I really enjoy going to the gym doing my workouts primarily because it allows me to focus on perfection. Close my eyes, feel the muscle. Make sure my upper arm doesn't move in the slightest. I don't want to feel any momentum. I just want effort in the muscle. It's very fun for me. It's very relaxing. It's soothing. I enjoy it. That's my take on it. I know people, you all want the weights to go up. You want the weights to go up, but I would just urge you, if you are following biomechanics, you've already gotten rid of your ego. So just get rid of it a little bit more and just understand the whole, I mean, lightweight versus heavyweight, that doesn't apply to biomechanics. It doesn't, because anyone who understands the actual math knows it's not a 10-pound lateral raise, it's a 300 pounds of load being delivered onto your lateral deltoid. When you're doing 80-pound swing-ups like this, there's no load being delivered to the lateral deltoid. It's common sense, but it's just lacking in gyms because people want to show off in front of the mirror for people who don't care. They want to act like a hero in their story. Okay, so lying on your side for lateral raise, you do not bring the arm all the way up. Oh, okay, so very simple. If you haven't already, check out any of my videos where I talk about this, but it's pretty easy to understand. This will be the last thing, guys, and then I have to get off, but I'll talk to you all next week. You're going to be lying on your side, but you'll be up on your arm slightly elevated like so, okay? So let me see if I can, like so, okay? Now the arm, when it comes up, you want it to be nice and straight, like so. However, even when you're on your side, you know, obviously, sorry guys, try to move this over here. So even when you're on your side, like this, and you're doing lateral raise, you want your arm to go up perfectly and stop when you get to this point. Now the reason you're stopping when you get to that point, and you can feel this yourself obviously, is when you get to that point, then your scapula takes over basically, then your middle trapezius, your lower trapezius takes over pulling the muscle. So long story short, once you get to here, that's it for the lateral deltoid, and then your scapula takes over. Again, just put your hand on your back and you could feel it moving. It's not hard to do. And, oh my God, stay. There we go. Now, the last thing, guys, oh, you know what, I'm an idiot. Sorry, let me see if I can find this here for you. Oh, there it is. There, you can see here. I hope that makes sense. So you can use cables and do a double arm like that. You can do a single arm. Just needs to originate at these particular points. Now, if you don't know, I like cables, but it's because all cables do is redirect gravity and give you greater control. Plus, you can quite literally see where the resistance is originating. Gravity, obviously, is always going to be like this. Wherever the cable is, that is the line of resistance. It's very easy to see. Again, I mean, I think these concepts are very simple. I have a video coming up either today or tomorrow where it's literally just me giving an argument for biomechanics and asking why in the hell you wouldn't train this way. Hopefully somebody's going to answer me in the comments with something productive. But I mean, the movements are all very simple. They're all very easy. I don't know why you wouldn't do them. They're easy to understand. So anyways, guys, I just... the 15-30 rep range in regards to, I don't like using the word, but hypertrophy, muscle growth, yes, it is best, as a matter of fact. If you guys don't already know this, I've mentioned it many times, but Jerry Brainham, he has a web, web articles. It's appliedmetabolics.com. Now, what he does is he takes some pretty freaking amazing research articles, all the latest stuff. He reads all of these thousands of articles and then he summarizes the information for people. It's $10 a month. I mean, he's a good friend of mine and I'm plugging him because I've been reading his article for a better part of a decade now. He's very old school. He goes back 50 years. He knows his shit. He's helped me so much with so many things and understanding so many things. And the reason I say this is because, as always, guys, I really urge you to do your own research. If you have free time, stop listening to music, start listening to podcasts and educational materials. If you're not reading, start reading. Put a book in your bathroom, something that's interesting to you. Find websites like Jerry Brainham's, subscribe to appliedmetabolics.com, read his amazing articles, get the information for yourself, do your own research, guys. Don't just believe things. Don't just believe me. I mean, I don't ever think I'm wrong, obviously, which is why I'm sharing the information from you, because it's research driven. But things change. I could be mistaken about something. It does happen. So do your own research, guys. Yeah, the reference is just appliedmetabolics.com, or just search Jerry Brainham. Trust me, he will pop up everywhere. He's pretty amazing. He's everywhere. He's written over 10,000 articles. He's got 3 books. Been around for 50 years. He was a bodybuilder with Arnold. Guy's amazing. I mean, if you haven't looked him up, do so already. But that's it for me, guys. I gotta get off. If you haven't already, check out my Etsy store. Check out all of my many different flashcards, my 3 different books, my calendars, my schedules for you guys, my tools for you guys there. They're all pennies. I don't want to break a leg for anybody. They're all pennies. Check out all of my videos. Check out my podcast. Check out all the stuff I do. Any questions you have, if you want me to make anything for you, if you want a video, just let me know. And if you want to coach, hey, I love coaching you guys. Most people only pay me about $400 a month. And you get access to me 24 hours a day, anything you need. So you guys, just let me know if I can ever help. Everybody stay on your grind, stay hard, and I'll see you next week.